The Joe Rogan Experience.
When I'm asking you this in terms of like if you had a magic wand, what do you do? The reason why I'm asking you this is because I've thought about it. I've sat down and tried to go over it myself, and I don't see a solution. It's what's so strange to me is that we have nations inside of our nation, and I don't want to end it, and I don't want to continue it. Neither one makes sense to me. Like to end it would be to say you're forced to assimilate. You no longer have sovereignty. We're going to break the last treaty and disband the reservations and make everybody just be a United States citizen. That seems crazy.
Well, everyone is a U.S. citizen. So citizenship was forced on us in 1924, I believe.
But I mean a U.S. citizen like I'm a U.S. citizen,
right,
where I can't start my own casino and I can't just do whatever I want to do.
But do you understand why that is? I mean,
yes.
I guess we.
No, I do. No, the reason why I'm saying it this way is because I'm just trying to look at it like from an overhead view. Like if I was an alien and I was trying to sort this out, and I had no ties to either culture, I'd be like, what do you do with that? Like, what do you do with that? Like, I understand that these people have been massively fucked over, that the genocide was perpetrated on their race, that they were wiped out both with disease and by military actions and soldiers, and treaties were broken. I get it. But the state they're in right now, when you look at what we're talking about with these reservations, the horrific conditions and the problems with drug abuse and alcoholism and suicide and despair and self-esteem and all these issues, like, what is the solution? What would be? I mean, if there was an unlimited budget, like what would you do if you were like if it's President Shannon? If you got elected, you could win, right? You could be president. Anybody could be president.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So if you won and you became the president and you ran on the part of what your platform was fixing this gigantic sore that we have in this country, our relationship with the tribes, what would you do? Unlimited resources. You do whatever you want.
Well, I don't know if it has anything to do with the tribes. I think it has more to do with the general public.
Okay, well,
and
then
it's
the
about
general
changing perspective. I think if we're properly educated about history, I think if we really understand who Native people are and their importance here and their importance to continue as sovereign tribal nations, and it has to start with public education. We have to recreate what's important to us here, and I think Indian nations have been here. I think they're a symbol of amazing prosperity that the country could have, and we've just never tapped into it. And I'm talking about just principles and values that we don't seem to hold anymore in this country.
Appreciation of nature and our symbiotic relationship with it.
I feel like you're kind of being sarcastic.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I think that's one of the major problems we have in this country is we don't have an appreciation of nature. We really don't, you know?
And it's not just an appreciation of it. I think it's a connection to it. We can't survive without it. And we're so interrelated to everything that happens on this earth. And we don't look 7 generations ahead of us to see what our decisions today are going to do to us in the future. We're constantly looking for the dollar today and how that's going to reward our efforts today. And we're not looking how, what the lives of our children are going to look like, what the lives of our great-great-grandchildren are going to look like. And I think those are the kind of values that we need in our country now. And I think that's what's being debated in the Democratic campaign right now. Where are our values? Are we going to, continue to support corporate society and corporate-sponsored everything, or are we going to start looking at what we want, 100 years from now?
Well, that's certainly what's going on right now with the Democratic debates.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like corporate's winning, even though their spokesperson could barely talk, which is hilarious. I mean, it just shows you how strong money and media and the influence of the DNC is. What would all this education do, though, in explaining to people, to the American citizens that are outside the tribes, how is that going to help the tribes themselves? What could be done to help these problems that we've already detailed, the problems with alcoholism, the problems with suicide and despair and self-esteem, all these horrific conditions that exist on many, many tribes?
Well, part of that is not anyone's problem but ours. That we have to deal with is sovereign nations within our own communities and how we choose to fix those issues. But I think looking outside how we can really affect change is there's something called prior and informed consent. And it's contained within the UN Declaration of Indigenous Peoples, and it requires a state or a government to include tribal nations in the decision-making processes that affect them. So this administration has been horrible at it, absolutely horrible at it. The Obama administration was much better, but we need to be part. We need to be the decision makers in the things that affect us. So if you are going to bulldoze and blow up our sacred sites to build your border wall, it seems like the proper thing to do first would be to have a conversation with us and for us to make a decision about how we can do that a little bit better to protect those sacred sites and natural springs and other things along the border instead of just blowing up everything.